Too many liberals give the impression that to them, America's just a big, ugh. The red, white, and ew. And if you don't like it, I don't know how you can say you love this country. You know who loves this country? You know who's not constantly complaining about what happened 200 years ago and who's not obsessed with seeing America through shit-colored glasses and shaking off the stench of what irredeemable privileged we are? Immigrants. But I am a perspective guy, and that's what too much of the left has lost, perspective.
Bill Maher recently blasted the left for hating America, and it was glorious. After last year's elections, many liberals proudly severed any association with the right. A tantrum Maher warns will not end well for Democrats. On an episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, the comedian reminded the left that despising half the country, meaning those who voted for Trump, is no different from despising the entire country. That's the point. Let's get into it.
Too many liberals give the impression that to them, America's just a big, ugh. The red, white, and ew. A country that started out bad and will always be bad, founded on an unrelenting history of sucking and unable to change. But we have changed a lot. But I am a perspective guy, and that's what too much of the left has lost, perspective. 72% of black people under 30 are optimistic about their future in America, way more than white people the same age. And as far as the land goes, yes, I guess we could change the name of Captain America to Captain Stolen Land.
That's Bill Maher in his element, laying down uncomfortable facts that cut straight through the narrative. For years, many black liberals have insisted that they aren't truly free in America and that their chances of success are shrinking by the day. It's a bleak picture, one repeated so often that it's treated as unquestionable truth. But Maher pushes back by pointing to actual data, not slogans or viral outrage. He cites statistics suggesting that this perception doesn't fully align with reality. According to those numbers, many black Americans remain optimistic about their personal futures, believe their lives are improving, and, crucially, say they wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the world. That doesn't mean problems don't exist or that racism vanished overnight. What it does mean is that America is far more complex and far less hopeless than activists and media figures often claim. Maher's point is simple. Fear-based narratives may grab attention, but they don't always tell the full truth.
But honestly, to all the people who start every public event now with one of those land acknowledgments where they say, I'm standing on land that was stolen from the proud indigenous people of the Chumash tribe, I say either give it back or
Bill Maher is clearly fed up with woke, performative politics, and he no longer bothers to soften the blow. He cuts straight to the core of what he sees as hypocrisy. If you're going to open every event by acknowledging that you're standing on land that once belonged to a Native American tribe, then follow the logic to its conclusion. Give the land back or stop posturing. Maher's point isn't anti-Native American, it's anti-nonsense. These ritualized acknowledgments change nothing, solve nothing, and cost the people making them absolutely nothing. They exist purely to signal moral superiority, not to deliver justice. That's what makes the whole exercise feel so hollow and, frankly, insulting. Real accountability requires sacrifice, not scripted apologies read off a teleprompter. Instead, woke politics has become a kind of performance art, loud, self-righteous, and utterly disconnected from reality. Maher sees it for what he believes it is. Empty gestures designed to make elites feel virtuous while avoiding any real consequences. And he's had enough.
But again, something like the free market is kind of synonymous with America. And if you don't like it, I don't know how you can say you love this country. You know who loves this country? You know who's not constantly complaining about what happened 200 years ago and who's not obsessed with seeing America through shit-colored glasses and shaking off the stench of what irredeemable privileged we are? Immigrants.
Yes, immigrants are overwhelmingly grateful just to make it to this country. America might not be perfect, but in their eyes, it is often the best option available. That perspective doesn't come from privilege or ideology. It comes from lived experience. Many immigrants have witnessed corruption, repression, poverty, or violence firsthand. So when they arrive in the United States, they recognize opportunity where others see only flaws. What frustrates Bill Maher, along with plenty of ordinary Americans, is how casually the left dismisses that reality. The same people who endlessly lecture about gratitude and empathy suddenly seem unable to stand the country they benefit from. And let's be honest, much of that resentment appears to have less to do with policy failures and more to do with political loss. For some, America only became irredeemable after it voted for Donald Trump. Had the country chosen Kamala Harris instead, the rhetoric likely would have been very different. Overnight, America might have been hailed again as compassionate, enlightened, and morally superior. The perceived hypocrisy is hard to miss, and many immigrants see it clearly.
Ask any of them why they came here, and they will tell you the same thing. Ron DeSantis put me on a plane. But they will also tell you that America, for all that's so shitty about it right now, is still the last best hope. And those people asking for our votes to take it over should remember that.
But the contradiction still stands, and it's impossible to ignore. If the left truly believes America is a broken, racist, irredeemable country, then why work overtime to make it easier for immigrants to come here? You can't have it both ways. On one hand, the United States is described as oppressive and fundamentally evil. On the other, it's treated like a promised land that everyone should rush toward. If America were really as awful as critics claim, the logical response wouldn't be open borders or relaxed immigration laws. It would be the opposite. You would tighten the rules, discourage migration, and warn people to stay away. But that's not what happens. The argument suggests that deep down, even many critics recognize a different reality. America still offers opportunity, freedom, and upward mobility that most countries simply can't match. That's the quiet admission buried beneath the angry rhetoric. The performative hatred may sound dramatic, but the policies tell another story. Even they seem to know that America is worth coming to, worth debating over, and worth staying in.
If, for your exile, you do wind up in some comparatively luxurious place like Canada or Japan or the UK, not that they want you. At best, you'll be trading a bunch of stuff you hate about this country for a bunch of stuff you'll soon hate about your new home. It took me only 4 days in Amsterdam to learn that while I admire Amsterdam, I don't want to live there. The buildings are cramped and shaped like needles. The food is awful. The TV's in a different language. It's wet and cold. The people are polite but cold, and they do a bunch of... The explanation for, according to my friend, was just remember they're high.
When you strip away the noise, the performative outrage, and the endless moral grandstanding, one truth remains clear. America is still an extraordinary place to live. Not perfect, and not beyond criticism, but fundamentally different from much of the world in ways that truly matter. The freedoms Americans enjoy, speech, dissent, due process, and opportunity, are not standard features of modern life. They are rare, fragile, and often taken for granted by the very people who benefit from them most. Bill Maher's frustration taps into that blind spot. You can't constantly declare a country evil while enjoying protections others would risk their lives to obtain. You can't mock, protest, insult leaders, and challenge authority with minimal consequences, then claim you live under tyranny. Perspective matters. Immigrants understand it. People who have lived under real authoritarian regimes understand it. America's harshest critics often don't. That doesn't mean the country shouldn't improve. It should. But improvement begins with honesty, not exaggeration, with gratitude, not contempt. The danger isn't that America is uniquely oppressive. It's that its freedoms feel so secure that people forget they exist at all. And once that happens, losing them can become much easier than anyone expects.
And arbitrary detentions are widespread in Cuba, Ecuador, El Salvador, Nicaragua. If you're wondering how that's just like no cash bail, it's not.
And that's the part many people completely miss. The freedoms Americans often take for granted are not guaranteed elsewhere. Not even in Europe, which is sometimes held up as morally superior. In the United States, free speech is a foundational right, not a privilege granted by the government. You can criticize leaders, mock institutions, and voice unpopular opinions without fearing a knock on the door. In countries like United Kingdom, however, that line is often seen as blurrier. Certain speech laws allow authorities to investigate or intervene over messages deemed harmful, inciting, or dangerous, even when no violence occurs. That reality surprises many Americans because it clashes with their understanding of what